Sports fuel life. Life without sports would be a terrible thing. I know many people that would argue with me on this point, but I'm here today to tell you and convince you why sports fuel life and sports form a necessary part in our community and in the world. I want to run through the timeline of COVID with you and use the example of COVID temporarily halting sports in general across a wide range of different kinds of sports from football to basketball, and just show how with COVID stopping these sports, the effect that it had, and to show you that the size of the hole that was left when sports went away just shows how important they are. So from here on this timeline, I hope you can see on my little pointer, we have March 13th. I'm going to use my experience with Idaho as an example. We have March 13th. This was the start of the BYU Idaho campus shutdown. I remember getting the email for this. I was here that semester. I was on campus. I was taking classes, and I was working full time. And I remember getting that email, and I remember seeing classes are temporarily suspended. That week was a limbo, but the teachers quickly bounced back and we all moved on to Zoom, like many people currently are still. So from there, on the 25th, that's when the full state of Idaho went into a shutdown. All non-essential businesses were temporarily put on hold. All food, like where I worked, for example, was temporarily made to order out. And so it was a statewide quarantine. And in between those, from the 6th all the way to the 13th, all major sporting events were postponed or canceled. So in March, last month, for example, what was going on? We had a March Madness, so that's college basketball right there. We had baseball going on, we had basketball going on, a lot of preseason stuff for football was starting up, the football draft, things like that. So March Madness was one of the things that got postponed and postponed and postponed. A lot of these sports were just pushed back further and further and further until finally they're like, okay, we're gonna cancel it. March Madness was canceled. The NBA finals were pushed back long enough until finally the NBA could get on its feet, and then they established a bubble where they could safely have it. Baseball was pushed back for a long time until finally around the summer when the cases started to drop a little bit more, then they were able to do it. Longer history there that I don't want to go into. And so basically COVID messed up everything. Everything. COVID postponed not just sports, but life in general with the quarantine. Everything was put on hold. We were stuck in our homes with no idea of what was going on or what to do. And the effects of that led to depression for a lot of people. I know that I, for myself, felt like I was in a limbo. I felt like I was just being kind of hung out to dry. I didn't know what was going on. I use sports personally, March Madness, for example, to know what time of year it is. March Madness, October, World Series, things like that. And so without that, I was kind of like, the days all meshed into one. Everything just kind of sped up, but at the same time it slowed down. So for me, I can say that I was kind of depressed as well. The quarantine was a huge problem for a lot of people because you were stuck at home for longer periods than you ever would have been. Just as like the weather was starting to warm up, we were stuck inside. And then not just watching team sports, but also sports in general that people would play. I would come here to campus and play volleyball or basketball. All of that was suspended, leading to like a lack of exercise, which just made the cycle even worse. I gained weight, that's for sure. And then I got more depressed. And so COVID had a huge quarantine that had a huge effect on a lot of people, as I'm sure it had an effect on you as well. And that hole that was left by sports, I want to go into just how important they are for us. As you can see from here, sports provide a sense of community. Um, what I love to do whenever I meet someone new, I'll ask them where they're from. And then based off of where they're from, let's say Detroit, I'll go, do you love the Lions? Do you love the Tigers? Like, who's your team? And just from there, you can start to grow and get to know this person. So there's already a sense of community embedded with sports. It also provides a generational connection. My grandfather, I never got the chance to meet him before he passed, but I still know who his favorite basketball team because he passed that on to my dad, and my dad passed that on to me. And so my favorite collegiate basketball team is the Idaho Vandals because of my great-great-grandfather. And that connection isn't just for me, but it's for everyone. A lot of people currently love the teams that they love, not because of where they live, but because of their past family. You can live in Texas, but you could love a team in Boston just because your father loves that team. And so that connection provides a strong bond for those families and for those sports teams. And also, sports in general are just a stress reduction. I'm not going into details about gambling or the problems that arise from sports, but I just want to focus on the positives. Because right now everyone's been focusing on the negatives. But sports just relieve stress for people. It's easy because they can show you that, hey, my team's winning, I feel great, I feel good, I feel happy. Or just the fact that sports are going on. I love it when it's baseball season because I know that spring's right around the corner, and that means warmer weather, and that's my favorite thing. In sports, there is a history of super fans. And I'm sure, I guarantee you that these are the people right now that are hurting the most. Up here you got Marlins Man. Marlins Man these are all really great characters, but Marlins Man is one of my favorites because he's a fan of one of my favorite sports, which is baseball. Marlins Man, as you can see, is sat right here behind the home plate, and he's always seen wearing his bright orange Miami Marlins jersey or gear or whatever, no matter the sport, or no matter the team, that he's attending. It is a bit of a faux pas in the sports world to go to a game wearing a different jersey than the two teams that are playing, and he might get some gruff for that. But you know what? Marlins Man loves his team, and he loves baseball. So he always is seen at every single World Series right behind the home plate, right in his bright orange jersey. And so I'm sure with this past World Series that we had, that was rough on him with the whole season getting suspended. Next over here we have the Green Men. These are for hockey. And so what they do more than just spectate, they actually participate in it. And those are some of the best fans. So what they do in hockey is whenever a player gets sent to the penalty box for committing a penalty or a mistake, they get sent there for a period of time, be it 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and these Green Men, while they're in there, heckle them and try to throw them off their mental game. In this image you can see they're kind of dancing around all crazy, and that just shows just how much they want to participate. Even though they probably can't play hockey or they're not as good as these guys, they still want to give their team the better edge. And then lastly we have Boltman. And while Boltman doesn't do as much as the Green Men over here by participating, the Boltman is a super fan for the football team. They're now the LA Chargers, but at the time they were the San Diego Chargers. And the Chargers didn't have a sports mascot. So Boltman took it upon himself to become that mascot. He figured out, designed a character, and he embodied it, and he embraced it. Because he felt that his team and his fans, his fellow fans, needed that support. And so he took it upon himself, despite the cost, despite whatever. And so all of these people, in my mind, represent just fans that want to be a part of it, that they find a love, they get joy from helping out their team, from encouraging other people, from getting everybody up, from getting people to believe in this idea of a team. And so those are all the benefits and the history of famous sport fans. And lastly, I just want to go into how sports fuel life. Up here I have two insignias for two very famous college teams. This one is the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then the next one is the Notre Dame. Notre Dame Fighting Irish, if for some of you that remember. These two teams are very famous in the sports world for football, obviously, but they also have really good basketball teams, baseball teams, soccer teams, even lacrosse, what have you. But when you see these images, these teams have built up such a reputation through their sports that now, like, I recognize them more for that than any of their other medical, psychological, whatever have you, of their colleges. And you can form a bond with those fans from those places just by shouting out, "Roll Tide," or, "Go Irish." And that's what I love about sports. They bring us together. They give us a drive to not only beat the other team, but just to be the best and just to strive, because we all want a goal. We all want to achieve something. And sports give us that. I can't play on the team, but I can root for the team and hope for them and give them my support. And if you feel the same way, then we have an instant connection, whether or not we're blood. And so the gap that's being felt right now, or that was felt from COVID, just shows how important sports are to bring us together as a people, as a family even, you might say. And because of that, I chose the title that Sports Fuel Life. And I feel that life fuels sports. Thank you.